this neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
Oh, there you
I've
go.
always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. While we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor? Sing it with me, please. It's on the sheet. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
Could you be mine?
It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. While we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor? Thank you so much for inviting us to join your beautiful neighborhood this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Rogers and I, a.k.a. Rick and Beverly Weise, and our roadie and stage producer back there, Ms. Rogers, Jennifer, are here to, just a minute, did he say it's a beautiful day in our neighborhood in this weather? I mean, Dave was talking about all the cold and ice we've been having. Do you think Mr. Rogers is playing with a full deck? And hasn't he heard about the dreaded polar vortex? The swirling winds, tens of thousands feet high in the sky over the Arctic Circle that's just fragmented into 3 sections, and one of them is coming right towards us to blast us with excruciating, frigid cold to freeze the earth this weekend. Uh-oh, do you hear that? Stay calm. Stay calm, everyone. Don't panic. Don't splash too much. You know what? That's the theme from Jaws. What is this? Am I getting polar vortex mixed up with Hungry Shark? Am I merging my horror stories into a new apocalyptic disaster sequel? Cut. Too many horror stories. And you know, if we're really sincere about looking for a beautiful day in our beautiful neighborhood, I will tell you folks, none of the horror stories, anything that's evoking fear, none of it's going to lead to what we're looking for. All they do is stage, they get ready for a sequel. That's all they do. So welcome to today's celebration of the beautiful neighborhood. When you all just sang along with Mr. Rogers about the beautiful neighborhood, you knew, didn't you, that you were singing about a lot more than just a nice house or beautiful trees and parks, great as those things are. Where Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., whose birthday we're celebrating this weekend, and was actually the reason we chose this day to do this, spoke of the beloved community. And our way shower, Jesus the Christ, spoke of the kingdom of heaven on earth. All different ways of describing the good place. But a good place not in the afterlife, not just in the afterlife, but in the here and the now. And a world of love and of peace and of kindness to all. And we are blessed today by the spirit and the heart of Mr. Fred McFeely Rogers. He's a beloved American treasure. As you know, he was a television personality, he was a puppeteer, he was a producer, a writer, a musician, a Presbyterian minister, but most importantly to himself, he was an educator of children. So I'd like to begin by introducing someone very important to Mr. Rogers, and please pay no attention to that man behind the screen.
Hi, neighbors. I am Daniel Striped Tiger, and I live in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood of make-believe in the grandfather clock with no hands, because in make-believe it's whatever time you imagine. I always wear a wristwatch, though, because when you live in a clock, you really should know what time it is.
Well, hi, Daniel Striped Tiger. Neighbors, can you say hi, Daniel?
Hi, Daniel.
Good, I knew that you could. They are really nice, aren't they, Daniel? Yes. There's a special reason we invited you to be here today. We'd like to tap your memories of Mr. Rogers and what he taught you. You knew Mr. Rogers very well, didn't you?
Oh, yes. I was the first neighbor that joined PBS's Mr. Rogers Neighborhood back in 1968. And I stayed his good neighbor for 30 years till 2001 when he retired. But you know what? I have a new life now. 10 years after leaving Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, I grew up, married Mom Tiger, moved to Jungle Beach, and have a son named after me, Daniel Tiger. And he has his own PBS program now, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. That's showbiz, folks.
Aw, you must be very proud of your son, Daniel. Mr. Rogers and I are certainly proud of our daughter. I wonder if our Unity neighbors here remember watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Yeah, several of you. Good. How many of you saw the recent documentary last summer, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Ooh, a lot of you too. You know it's the highest grossing documentary, and there's been a real resurgence in the life and legacy of Mr. Rogers. For those who didn't see it, do not despair. It's on Netflix, and Rotten Tomatoes gave it like a 98%, I think, fresh rating. So it's worth watching. One reviewer explained the documentary's popularity. When people are fatigued by the news, by negativity, a divided country, and sensationalism, a simple, true story of one person overcoming obstacles to do good becomes almost soothing for adults to watch in the theater.
I thought Mr. Rogers was soothing too. He was calm and quiet and very kind. Each day, he would get home from work, put on a cardigan sweater and sneakers, and open his TV house for play and learning and fun. We went down to the trolley to the neighborhood of make-believe, where everyone learned how to treat each other with love and kindness. By the way, Mr. Rogers told me that when he was young, he loved to ride the trolley in Pittsburgh. That's why there's a trolley on the show.
Did you know that his mother knitted each of the cardigan sweaters he wore on the show? And that we could actually see the red cardigan at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History.
Oh, I'd like to visit the museum and see the sweater with you.
Well, I would like that too. Let's do that, Daniel. Since you know Mr. Rogers so well, I wanted to ask you about making beautiful neighborhoods. You see, there's something I can't figure out. Is there anyone here who does not want to live in a beautiful neighborhood? How about you, Daniel? Have you ever met anyone who says they want to live in an ugly neighborhood? No. Well, if it's something we all want, why is it so hard? I even saw a t-shirt the other day that said, Mr. Rogers did not prepare me for my neighbors. Maybe you could remind us of what Mr. Rogers taught you during your 30 years together. Did he give you any rules to live by? Why don't you start at the beginning?
Well, when I first met Mr. Rogers, I thought I was a mistake.
Oh, Daniel, why did you think that?
For one thing, I've never met a tiger that looks like me, and I've never met a tiger that talks like me, and I don't know any other tiger that lives in a clock or loves people.
Oh, Daniel.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm too tame. I'm shy and easily frightened and a worrywart.
How did Mr. Rogers help you feel that you weren't a mistake?
He told me so many times how he wanted me to remember that he liked me just the way I am. I began to believe that I wasn't a mistake, that I'm unique and special and don't have to change or do anything sensational for people to love me. And my friend, Lady Aberlin, always made me feel happy when we shared an Ugga Mugga.
What is an Ugga Mugga?
We just rub our noses together and say Ugga Mugga, like this.
Ugga Mugga. Would any of our friends like to share an Ugga Mugga with each other? No pressure, folks. Okay, so the first key of living in a beautiful neighborhood is loving yourself, knowing that you're beautiful inside. And isn't this what unity teaches too, that God's everywhere present, outside and within us, and that we're all naturally good because God's divinity is our true nature? And it helps us when we remind each other that we like each other, like Mr. Rogers did for Daniel.
This is a song just about that. It's called It's You I Like. It's you I like, not the things you wear, not the way you do your hair, but it's you I like. The way you are right now, way down deep inside you, not the things that hide you, not your toys, they're just beside you. But it's you I like, every part of you, your skin, your eyes, your feelings, whether old or new. I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you. It's you I
Oh, Mr. Rogers, it's you I like.
Mrs. Rogers, it's you I like too.
Why don't you just say it to one person beside you? It's you I like.
That makes you I like.
Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel good? So the second key. So the second key to loving. So the second key is loving and appreciating other people and telling them it's you I like. It's about liking the true self, though, what we in Unity call our great I am. In Unity, we know what we focus on expands, and the more we focus on the beauty and light of others, that's going to evoke more of those qualities in our experiences with that person. Daniel, what else did you learn from Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Rogers understood when I told him I don't always have beautiful feelings inside. Sometimes I get angry, and now I know that's okay, but I have to control it.
Well, do you think Mr. Rogers ever got angry?
Well, he told me once that when he was a little boy, he was shy and overweight and had serious medical problems. He told me he was scared to death to go to school each day. There were bullies, a pack of boys who started to chase him after school. "Hey, Fat Freddy, we're going to get you." Every day he tried to outrun them to get to the house of a friendly neighbor. He was really angry at the teasing, the pain, and those kids for not seeing beyond his fatness or shyness. But all the adults told him just to ignore them. They told him to act like it doesn't bother you and just let on that you don't care and they'll leave you alone. He wanted permission to be angry, but he had to hide his feelings.
Today we talk about emotional intelligence, but that was a new idea back in Mr. Rogers' day. Mr. Rogers spoke about kindness and love and acceptance, but he also understood that getting angry and having other unhappy feelings is a fact of life. And he taught us that we should allow ourselves to feel everything that we feel, that comes to our heads and our hearts, and it's what we do with our feelings that matter in life. Even though his parents didn't want to hear it, they didn't want to hear his anger, once he said, "I found that if I played the piano when I was angry, my parents didn't mind that. And then little by little, I'd see the music would be sounding less and less angry. So it seemed the more I played, the more anger got out of me, and I felt better about everything."
It does give you a good feeling to know that there's something you can do to help you become the master of the mad that you feel and not have to hurt somebody or anybody else or yourself.
Well, that reminds me, Daniel, I know that you're good and I'm good, and obviously everyone else here is good or you wouldn't be here. But what about those bullies who chase Mr. Rogers? They sure don't seem good inside.
They need to learn how to understand and control their mad, sad, or bad feelings so that their good inside will show and grow.
I see. So the third key of living in a beautiful neighborhood is to understand what you're feeling and to be in control, in charge of your neighborhood of emotions. And eventually, we can let go of our negative feelings and enjoy our good feelings. In Unity, we know that our thoughts and our feelings, our entire consciousness creates our reality. So we don't want to get stuck in counterproductive negative thoughts and feelings. We can let go and let God lovingly release them to our indwelling Christ nature so we can find true peace and true love, our true essence.
Yes, you got it. The fourth key Mr. Rogers taught us is about making a difference in the world. I'll tell you about a time when Lady Aberlin saved the day. You see, during our very first 5 shows, our king, Friday the 13th, was worried about an invasion of people who wanted to change the neighborhood of make-believe. He decided the answer was to build a wall around the kingdom. He made new rules and restrictions and made border guards and even required everyone to start using a punch clock to enter the kingdom. The trouble is, none of us knew what a punch clock was, so we just punched it till it broke. Everyone was upset.
I heard that was a very ugly time. You said Lady Aberlin saved the day. What did she do to save the day?
She brought helium balloons and filled them with messages of peace and floated them across the castle. When King Friday the 13th read them, he realized he had nothing to fear and took down the wall.
Wow. So the thoughts of peace overcame the thoughts of fear.
I wish I could be more peaceful. Sometimes I get really worried when I hear my parents talking about world news, the disasters and shooting and hate.
Yes, often I get really upset about today's news too. How did Mr. Rogers help you deal with when you were upset by the news?
He said, When he was a boy and would see scary things in the news, his mother would say to him, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping."
Yes, one time he said that even as an adult, he remembered his mother's words, especially in times of disaster, and he was always comforted by the fact that there's so many helpers, so many caring people in the world. And it really helps me today, too. You know, just to hear about the unsung heroes rescuing people and animals during wildfires and floods, and the teachers and healers, the first responders, all the many courageous men and women, girls and boys who are really trying to work for a better world, a society of justice and equal opportunity and love for all. And that includes each of us when we decide to be a helper. Unity teaches we do and give our best by living the truth we know. Did Mr. Rogers ever talk about civil rights?
He didn't exactly use those words, at least not to me, but he showed that he believed in civil rights. For example, I remember Mr. Rogers and Officer Clemens bathing their feet together in a swimming pool and then sharing a towel afterwards. Mr. Rogers was white and Officer Clemens was black.
Yes, and that was in 1969. That was a time when black people in our country were still barred from swimming in many white-only swimming pools.
He believed in equal rights for women, too, and championed the disabled. He was a vegetarian and would not eat anything that had a mother.
One of his most important achievements was almost single-handedly saving PBS funding. In 1969, President Nixon threatened to cut all funding for PBS, which would have eliminated Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Mr. Rogers testified to the Senate, to a Senate subcommittee, about why his program was so important. He based it on children's mental health by letting them know they could discuss and manage their feelings nonviolently. His 7-minute testimony secured the network with $20 million in funding, and that in our money today would be $140 million. It really does go to show that sometimes speaking up can make all the difference.
He said that we need to love each other and care for each other and show it with our actions.
Love was so important to him that every day he stepped on the scale to make sure he was still 143 pounds, because 143 was his code for I love you. There's one letter in I, love, L-O-V-E, for you, 1, 2, 3, Y-O-U, so 143. And he said that there are 3 ways to ultimate success. The first way is to be kind, the second way is to be kind, the third way is to be kind.
And you are the location, and the location.
Oh, you're so clever, Daniel.
But I'm a little worried now.
Why is that?
I don't always know how to show people I love them. I don't know what to do to be a good neighbor when there are so many good causes and people needing help. So many problems to solve. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, we all have to figure that out, Daniel, don't we? Building a beautiful neighborhood isn't for sissies. It often takes hard work, grit, patience, and determination not to give up. But remember his good friend, Lady Aberlin? It started with her choosing peaceful thoughts. Then she was inspired to put her peace into action by writing messages of hope and peace and putting them in helium balloons and floating them. She acted out of her heart of love, not out of fear.
There are many ways to say I love you. There are many ways to say I care about you. Many ways, many ways, many ways to say I love you. Cleaning up a room and say I love you. Hanging up a coat before you're asked to do it. Drawing special pictures for the holidays and making plays. There are many ways to say I love you. There are many ways to say I care about you. Many ways, many ways, many ways to say I love you.
Mr. Rogers taught us beautiful songs, but you know, he also taught us there are times to He taught that noise can create stress and quiet can cure it. Mr. Rogers would ask his television audience important questions such as, do you get enough quiet? When asked how he kept himself grounded, he said, I get up every morning at least by 5. I have a couple hours of quiet time to reflect about what's important before I go swimming and then the business of the day. He said to an interviewer that revelations come in silence. And isn't that so unity? In unity, we believe we can find our heart's passion, our special gifts, the best way to be of service with the tools of prayer and meditation. So I have an answer to Daniel's question about his purpose, or at least how to find it, and maybe some of your questions too. Let's go on an adventure together, an inner journey, a guided meditation to get some answers. I'd like to invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. Otherwise, you may choose to softly lower your eyes and gaze a few feet ahead. Please take a few slow, deep breaths to begin the process of relaxing your body. It's helpful to inwardly scan your entire body from head to toe and to breathe into any tight or uncomfortable places. Feel free to adjust your body's position to make you more comfortable and at ease. As your body unwinds, your mind also relaxes. And you can let go of any stressors or concerns that you've been experiencing and give yourself permission to enjoy this time of peace and stillness. You could silently affirm, I am at peace and all is well. We're going on an inner sacred journey now to the neighborhood of make-believe. Oh, I see the trolley coming. Hear its bell as it rolls around the corner. All aboard now. You are comfortable with the trolley conductor and know he'll keep you safe on your journey. When you're safely seated with your seatbelt fastened, the trolley begins by going backwards. That's its way of saying goodbye to the here and now. And then it goes forward, saying hello to the world of someplace else, a world of limitless freedom and imagination. When you find the perfect neighborhood spot, whether a quiet bench under a spring tree, a grassy field by a gurgling stream, or maybe an outdoor cafe with busy life all around you, you ring the trolley bell to stop. You go to your perfect place, to your beautiful neighborhood, with a sense of quietness and expectation. And then you hear a soft hello. You see or feel or sense a young child gazing at you. You gaze back into the child's eyes of love and wonder. Your heart opens and softens as you feel the child's joy and trust, hope and optimism, beauty and innocence. You know this child is a blessing, the place of miracles and healing, the place of eternal love. You sit quietly in loving connection. Now you could ask your deepest questions, perhaps what your child needs from you, or your purpose and mission, how to have a happy life together. Any questions you have, perhaps what you could accomplish to make your world a beautiful neighborhood. You take a few minutes now to enjoy your sweet communion together. As the trolley bell signals you to return, you hold each other tenderly, and you know you don't want to say goodbye. You ask the child to return with you, and the child is so happy to know you want to stay together, too. You both board the trolley and find the trolley driver has been patiently waiting for you, not at all surprised to see you together. You realize your child's always been a part of you, living in your heart. After you're safely back in the trolley with your seatbelt fastened, the trolley backs up to say goodbye to the world of someplace else in the neighborhood of make-believe. Then it goes forward, back to the world of here and now, where you safely depart. You feel the chair in this room solidly supporting you. And when you're ready, you open your eyes to see your kind and loving UVB friends.
Welcome back, everyone. I remember my purpose, what it's always been.
And what's that, Daniel?
My purpose is to help Mr. Rogers with his purpose, to help children grow and become neighbors in a beautiful neighborhood.
Well, that's beautiful, Daniel. And thank you for sharing your memories of Mr. Rogers. What a blessing you are. So let me see if I can remember the key lessons from Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, not necessarily in any order. 1, to love and accept yourself. 2, to love and appreciate others. 3, to be smart about all our feelings and how to manage them. 4, to be still and quiet and find revelations in silence. And 5, to stand up for social justice and make a difference in the world with unselfish service. Is there anything else I missed?
Well, don't forget Ugga Mugga.
Ugga Mugga. And oh look, it's such a good feeling to see Mr. Rogers returning now to remind us what a good feeling it's been to be with you today.
Such a good feeling to know you're alive. Happy feeling you're growing inside. And when you wake up each morning you say, I'm gonna make this happy new day. It's just a good feeling, very good feeling. Feeling you know you're alive.
It's such a good feeling to know you're in tune.
Such a happy feeling to find you're in bloom.
And when you wake up ready to say, I'm gonna make
A happy new day.
It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we're friends. Well, you make every day a special day, and it's just by you being you. And remember, we like you just the way that you are, and we're very proud of you. Thank
And I have a little gift for you that I ordered from Unity Village, because even though Mr. Rogers didn't use our terminology, I found his key concepts to me to be so unity-like. So I wanted to give you your own copy of Basic Unity Principles with the prayer of protection on the back, so that you could remember our time to hear today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.